It began like any other night. Warm air, quiet streets, children laughing in the distance. A normal summer evening in Turkey. But by midnight, there were tanks on the bridges, jets in the sky, gunfire in the capital, and fear. Fear in every heart. This is not just a story about a coup. It's a story about power, about people, and about what we do when the sky goes dark. This is Turkey's 2016 coup. A night of fire and silence. Chapter 1. Before the Storm. Turkey was changing. In the early 2000s, many people felt hope. There were new roads, new schools, new hospitals. President Erdogan and his party, the AKP, promised a better life. And for some, it was better. But not for everyone. Some people felt afraid. They said, "This is not freedom." They saw more control, more arrests, less news, less voice. Journalists were put in prison. Teachers were fired. People whispered in cafes, "Be careful what you say," because someone might be listening. The country was divided, like two sides of a coin. One side said, "We are strong now. We have pride. We are building a new Turkey." The other side said, "We are losing our democracy day by day." The army, once powerful in Turkish politics, was quiet. But it was watching, always watching, in the shadows. There were rumors, talks of secret groups inside the army, talks of a man far away, Fethullah Gulen, a preacher living in the U.S. Some believed he and his followers were building a hidden force, inside schools, courts, police, even the military. Was it true? No one knew for sure. But fear was growing, and silence too. In the summer of 2016, the air was hot, heavy. People walked slowly in the streets, tired from the heat and from worry. Something felt wrong, like a storm was coming. A woman in Ankara, a teacher, said to her friend, "I don't know why, but I feel something bad is going to happen." Her friend laughed nervously. "Don't be dramatic," she said. But she also looked up at the sky and felt the same thing. People still went to work, still bought bread, still drank tea. But under the normal life, there was tension, like a wire pulled too tight. Then came the whisper. "Did you hear? Something's happening in the army." Another voice. "They say Erdogan is in danger." Another. No, it's just talk. Don't believe it." But the whispers grew louder, and the silence became fear. In the days before July 15th, everything looked normal. But history often walks quietly before it screams. And no one, not the teacher, not the soldier, not the man selling fruit in the market, knew how dark the night would soon become. The storm was almost here. Chapter 2. A Strange Night Begins. It was a warm summer night in Turkey. July 15th, 2016. Children were playing outside. Some people were sitting in cafes, laughing, drinking tea. Others were at home, watching TV, waiting for sleep. Everything felt normal, peaceful. But just after 9 p.m., Something changed. A man in Istanbul looked up. He saw a helicopter flying low, too low, then another and another. "What's going on?" he asked his wife. She didn't know. At the same time, on the Bosphorus Bridge, soldiers appeared. They carried guns. They stood in silence. They stopped traffic. No one could cross. A driver got out of his car and shouted, "Why are you here? What's happening?" No answer. Just silence and soldiers. In Ankara, the capital city, people heard something strange. A loud sound in the sky. Jet planes, flying fast, too fast. One woman covered her ears and screamed, "What is that? Are we at war?" The sky shook, windows rattled. People started to panic. News was slow, confused. TV stations said nothing. Then, the internet slowed down. Social media stopped working. "What's happening?" someone whispered. No one could answer. Some thought it was a terror attack. Others said, "It's a military exercise, just training." But then, the shooting started. Bang, bang, bang. Gunfire in the dark, at the police station, at the Parliament building, at people. A man shouted, "Go home! Stay inside!" Another cried, "Is this a coup?" That word, coup, a word full of fear, a word from history, a word that meant the army was trying to take control. But was it really a coup? Was this real? People turned on the TV. Some channels were off. Others were playing music. Then, one reporter appeared. Her hands were shaking. She said only one word. Emergency. A young woman in Izmir held her phone and called her mother. "Are you okay?" Her mother was crying. "I don't know what's going on," she said. "But it's not safe. Stay home." The streets, once full of life, became quiet, except for the sound of jets and guns. Fear spread like smoke, fast, heavy, hard to breathe. No one knew who to trust. No one knew what was coming. And still, the night was just beginning. Chapter 3. Tanks in the Streets. The sound came first, a deep, heavy sound. Not like a car, not like a plane. It was slower, louder, stronger. Tanks, real tanks, on the streets of Turkey, in Istanbul, in Ankara, in front of buildings, bridges, airports. Soldiers were everywhere. Their faces were cold. Their guns were ready. People started to run. A young man dropped his shopping bag and shouted, "What is this? What's happening?" An old woman held her chest, breathing fast. "I've seen this before," she said. "In the old days, this is how it starts." A child pointed and asked, "Are we going to war?" No one answered. The streets were full of confusion and fear. At Ataturk Airport in Istanbul, people were stuck. Some lay on the floor. Others looked at the screens. All flights canceled. A woman tried to leave, but a soldier stopped her. "Go back," he shouted. She raised her hands and stepped away. Tears filled her eyes. Another man said, "They're trying to take power. This is a coup." The word spread like fire. Coup, coup, coup. But who was behind it? The army? A group inside the army? Was the president safe? So many questions. No answers. One man stood in front of a tank. He wore jeans, a white shirt. He had no weapon, just his body. He raised his hands and shouted, "This is our country. You can't take it." The tank stopped. The soldier inside didn't move. Another tank rolled forward, and this time, it did not stop. People screamed. They ran. But not all of them. Some stayed. They shouted. They cried. They prayed. Gunfire hit the night air. Tear gas filled the streets. Ambulances couldn't reach the wounded. Lights flashed. Sirens screamed. Hearts pounded. In some neighborhoods, people banged pots from their balconies. They shouted, "No to the coup, no to fear." In others, silence, darkness, waiting. A young boy held his mother's hand tightly. "Will we die tonight?" he asked. She looked down and didn't answer. Because she didn't know. Nobody knew. All they knew was this. Tanks were in the streets, and the country was changing, fast. Chapter 4. The President Speaks. The country was shaking. Tanks rolled through the streets. Jets flew low across the sky. People were running, hiding, crying. And the president? No one had seen him. Where was he? Was he alive? Was he safe? Was he even still in Turkey? Many people waited in front of their TVs, hoping, fearing, wondering. In some homes, families held hands and prayed. In others, people just stared at the dark screen, silent, tense, hearts heavy. Then, around midnight, something strange happened. A news channel turned back on. Not a big speech. Not a studio. Just a phone. A journalist held up a phone to the camera, and on that phone screen was President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. His face was small. His voice was tired. But it was him. "I am calling on the people," he said. "Go out into the streets. Go to the squares. Stand against this coup." He was speaking live, through FaceTime. The internet was slow. The picture wasn't clear. But the message was fire. People stared at the screen. "He's alive," someone whispered. "He's fighting," said another. "He's asking us to help." And just like that, the fear began to change. Yes, there was still danger. Yes, the streets were still full of soldiers. But now, there was something else. A voice. A leader. A choice. In one house, a young man stood up. "I'm going," he said. His mother grabbed his arm. "No," she cried. You'll be killed. But he pulled away. He called us, he said. We have to answer. And he ran out the door. In another home, a woman put on her headscarf. She told her husband, "We have to go. Now." They took their children, and they went. Mosques began to call out over the loudspeakers, not for prayer, but for action. Come out! Protect your democracy! The streets were starting to fill again, but this time, not with soldiers, with people, with voices, with flags, with courage. Erdogan's voice on that little screen changed everything. He was not in power that moment. Not really. The army was on the streets. The police were confused. The media was almost gone. But his call, that one message, was enough. Because it reached the hearts of his supporters, and they were ready to fight back. That night, the president's voice was not just on a phone. It was echoing in every square, in every home, in every soul that still believed. Chapter 5. The People Rise. It started with one man, then 2, then 20, then hundreds. People began to fill the streets, not just in one city, but in many. Istanbul, Ankara, Izmir, everywhere. They came from their homes. They left their beds. They walked. They ran. They shouted. Some were afraid. Some were angry. But all of them believed. They stood in front of tanks. Yes, real tanks. Big, cold, heavy, with soldiers sitting on top, holding guns, waiting, watching. But the people did not run. They raised their hands and shouted, "We are not afraid! This is our country. No to the coup." A mother with her 2 daughters stood in front of a tank and yelled, "You will not hurt my children." An old man hit a tank with his walking stick. "Go home," he cried. "You are not welcome here." The tank did not move, but neither did he. People climbed on tanks. They waved flags. They called others to join. A student live-streamed from the middle of the street. "We are here," she said. "Come with us. Don't be silent." Mosques played messages all night. Defend your future. Defend your freedom. Taxi drivers blocked roads to stop soldiers. Shopkeepers gave free water to the crowds. Doctors ran to help the wounded. It was chaos. It was courage. It was history. Some soldiers were young, very young. They didn't shoot. They looked around, confused. One of them said, "They told us this was an exercise, a training." A man shouted back, "This is not training. This is treason." Still, not all soldiers stayed silent. Some fired, some hurt people, some killed. But the crowds kept growing and growing. A man fell beside his friend, blood on the ground. His last words were, "Tell my son, I did this for him." By sunrise, the people had taken back many streets. Tanks were stopped. Soldiers arrested. Some ran away, dropping their weapons. The coup was not over. But something had changed. It wasn't just the president's call. It wasn't just one speech. It was the people, men, women, young, old, standing tall, holding hands, facing fear, with fire in their hearts. That night, they rose, not because they had to, but because they chose to. Chapter 6. Fire and Fear. The streets were full. The people were rising. They were strong. But the night was not over. Not yet. Suddenly, gunfire. Sharp. Loud. It cut through the darkness like a knife. People screamed. Some dropped to the ground. Others ran, looking for cover. But some stood still. In Ankara, helicopters flew low above government buildings. Too low. Windows shook. Alarms rang. Then came the missiles. One hit the parliament building. Another hit the police headquarters. A reporter shouted on TV, "They're attacking their own country!" Boom. Glass shattered. Flames rose. The night sky was no longer black. It was red. Red with fire. Red with fear. Inside the parliament, lawmakers hid under tables. They covered their heads. Some cried. "We are under attack!" someone yelled. Another voice. "Keep the cameras on! Let the world see this." But the world didn't know what to believe. Even inside Turkey, people were confused. Was this real? Was it ending? Or just beginning? Back in the streets, people carried the wounded. A young woman, shot in the leg, whispered, "Don't leave me." A stranger held her hand and said, "I won't." A father pressed his jacket to his son's chest. "Stay with me. Please stay with me." Sirens screamed in every direction, but help was not enough. There were too many, too fast, too sudden. Some people tried to reach the hospitals, but the roads were blocked by tanks, by fire, by fear. Even in the noise, there were quiet moments. A man kneeled beside a body and prayed. He did not know the name, but he prayed anyway. A woman gave her phone to a stranger. "Please," she said, "call my family. Tell them I'm okay." And a soldier, just a boy, really, sat on the sidewalk, shaking. His gun was gone, his eyes full of tears. "They told us to do this," he said. "I didn't know. I didn't know." By early morning, the city smelled of smoke and sadness. The sun was rising, but it did not feel like a new day. It felt like a wound. More than 250 people had died, thousands were hurt, and millions were afraid. The coup was failing, but the fear was still winning. And across Turkey, one question remained. How could this happen? Chapter 7. The World Watches. The world was watching, from far away, from behind screens, eyes wide, mouths open, hearts frozen. What was happening in Turkey? It was late in Europe, early morning in Asia. In America, people were just starting their day. Then came the headlines. Military coup in Turkey. Gunfire in the streets. President Erdogan speaks on FaceTime. Images filled the news. Tanks on bridges, people waving flags, jets flying low, explosions, screams, fire, and bodies on the ground. It looked like war, but it wasn't. Not quite. World leaders watched and waited. Some sent messages quickly. Germany said, "We support democracy." France said, "We are watching closely." The U.S. said, "All parties should show restraint." But others said nothing. They waited, they watched. They didn't want to choose a side too soon. What if the coup succeeded? What if the government fell? No one wanted to say the wrong thing. In the homes of Turkish families living abroad, there was panic. A mother in Berlin called her sister in Istanbul. "Are you safe?" she cried. Her sister answered, "There are tanks outside. I don't know what to do." In London, a student from Ankara sat with his phone in his hand, waiting for a message. Any message. But nothing came. In New York, a man watched the news with tears in his eyes. "That's my country," he said, "and it's burning." Journalists tried to explain, but it was hard. Some said, "It's a power struggle." Others said, "It's a fight for democracy." And some just said, "It's chaos." No one knew the full truth. Not yet. People were still fighting, still dying, still hoping. A reporter in Ankara spoke to the camera with fear in her voice. "I hear gunfire," she said, "but I also hear voices, loud, strong voices. The people are not giving up." Social media was full of photos, videos, and questions. One post said, "Pray for Turkey." Another said, "Where is the world? Why is no one helping?" And one more, "Tonight, Turkey stands alone." The world watched, but it could not feel what Turkey felt. Not fully, not truly. Only the people inside could feel the fear in their bones, the smoke in their lungs, the fire in their hearts. When the sun rose over the cities of the world, Turkey was still fighting. The coup was not finished, but the world had seen enough to know one thing. This was not just a moment. It was history, and history was still being written. Chapter 8. After the Battle. The morning after was not quiet. There was no peace, no celebration, only smoke, silence, and sorrow. Yes, the coup had failed, but something else had begun. Soldiers were taken from the streets. Some were arrested. Some were beaten. Some looked like boys, not men. In the squares, people stood with flags. Some cried. Some prayed. Others shouted, "Justice! Punishment! Traitors must pay!" The fear of losing the country had now turned into something else: anger. The government moved fast, very fast. Thousands of people were arrested: soldiers, judges, teachers, police, pilots, professors, men and women, old and young, some guilty, some just afraid. A school teacher in Izmir was told not to return to work. No reason, no warning. A father of 3 who worked at the court came home one day and said, "They took my ID. They said I'm under investigation." His wife asked, "But why?" He looked down. "I don't know." Television stations were closed. Newspapers disappeared. Voices that once spoke freely went silent. People looked over their shoulders before speaking. They whispered in cafes. They deleted old posts on Facebook. The streets were calm, but the fear was different now. Not from tanks, but from questions. Who can I trust? Who is watching me? Am I next? The president gave strong speeches. He called the night a gift from God. He said it was a chance to clean the system, to remove all the enemies one by one. He spoke of unity, of strength, of justice. But not everyone felt safe. Some felt hunted, forgotten, alone. A student at the university said, "My professor disappeared. They say he was part of the coup, but he taught literature, not war." Her voice trembled. "I don't know who to believe anymore." Lists were made. Thousands of names. Fired. Suspended. Arrested. In just a few weeks, Turkey had changed. Not with tanks now, but with paper. And fear. The battle was over. The soldiers were gone. But the fear stayed, and it spread. Like a shadow, long and dark. People no longer asked, "Is this a coup?" Now they asked, "What happens next?" Chapter 9. Voices of the Night. So many voices were lost in the noise, in the gunfire, in the fear. But some voices still speak, not through microphones, not on the news, but in memories, in pain, in truth. These are their voices. A mother stood at the door of the hospital. Her scarf was wet with tears. She held a photo in her hand. A boy with bright eyes, 17 years old. "My son went outside to protect his country," she said. "He didn't carry a gun, just his heart." She paused. Her voice shook. They brought him back, with a bullet in his chest. She looked at the sky. Why do the brave ones die? In a quiet town, a teacher sat alone in his classroom. The chairs were empty. The board was clean. "I built this school," he said, "with love, with hope." Then, the paper came. He was told to leave. No trial, no reason. "They said I was part of the coup, but I taught history. not war. He touched a student's notebook. I only wanted to teach them truth. His eyes filled with water. But maybe that was the danger. A young soldier sat in a small cell. His hands shook. His voice was soft. They told us it was training, he whispered. We got on the trucks. We followed orders. He looked up. Then I saw people in the street. Women, children, old men. He paused. They were shouting, crying. I didn't know what to do. He buried his face in his hands. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I didn't understand. A woman in a wheelchair held a Turkish flag. She had been hit by a bullet that night. Now she could not walk. They say I'm a hero, she said, but I don't feel like one. She looked at her legs, at the medal they gave her. I miss dancing with my daughter. I miss walking in the park. She touched her chest, but if I could choose again, I would still go. So many voices, so many stories. Some still speak. Some are silent. Some will never be heard. But each one matters. Each one was part of that night. Not just the leaders, not just the soldiers, the mothers, the teachers, the children, the ones who lost and the ones who stayed. The night of the coup was filled with fire, with fear, but also with voices, with truth, and with pain. Chapter 10. What Freedom Means. The tanks are gone. The streets are quiet. The fires have cooled. The night has passed. But the questions? They stayed. What is freedom? Is it walking safely down a street? Is it speaking your truth without fear? Is it voting, dreaming, writing, teaching, without looking over your shoulder? Or is it something deeper? A feeling, a breath, a life without chains, not just on your hands, but on your mind. After the coup, the government became stronger. Some say too strong. Thousands were arrested. Schools were closed. Voices were silenced. Some people cheered. Others wept. A teacher asked, "Can we still call this a democracy?" A student said, "I love my country. But now, I am afraid to speak." A soldier whispered, "I followed orders once. I won't do it again." Freedom, it seems, means something different to everyone. And what about power? That night, the soldiers had the guns, but the people had the streets. The president had a phone, but his words moved millions. So, who truly had the power? Was it the tanks? The voice on the screen? The mothers who stood in front of bullets? Power is not just about force. It's about faith, belief, courage. Sometimes, power comes from standing still, from saying no, from refusing to look away. Years have passed, but the memories remain. Some remember fear, Some remember pride. Some try not to remember at all. But memory is important. It is how we learn, how we heal. It is how we protect the future. By not forgetting the past. And what about hope? Hope is small, but strong. It lives in the child who asks, why did people fight in the streets? It lives in the teacher who returns to the classroom, in the writer who keeps telling the story, in the people who still raise their voices, even when it's hard. Hope is in remembering and still believing. That freedom is worth fighting for. That truth matters. That power, without kindness, is nothing. The night of the coup changed Turkey forever. But from that dark night came questions, hard questions, and also a quiet promise. A promise that we, as people, must keep asking, what is freedom? What is power? And above all, who do we want to be when the silence ends?